Welcome to the Couch Time Podcast, where we give you tools to connect with your kids and point them to Jesus. I'm Steven, this is Aaron Barnett, and Josh Lewis. And this week, we're going to be talking about the most important question in all of the universe.
Wow,
is the meaning of life.
The students may think that this is the biggest.
Is your kid ready to date? And how do you know if your kid is ready to date? How do you lead them in those conversations? I think more and more, this is a really hard thing for parents to walk through. It's a very hard thing for us as youth leaders to walk through when we're having conversations with kids and seeing different kids enter into relationships. And ultimately, we want to help kids see for themselves, am I ready to date in this stage of life that I'm in, or am I not?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, like, it is your role or their role as shepherds and leaders of their kids to be trying to help lead and navigate through that. And different parents are going to do this in different ways, but we want to give you all some questions for your kid to be able to ask themselves, or questions for you to walk with your kid through to help them decide, you know what, is this the right time for me to date, or is this something that God has for me possibly later in life?
Or I would say it's, even if your kid's not interested in dating, like, that's great. Encourage them in that. But it's worth having the conversation because they're going to have friends who date. And it's like just having an understanding of the concept of dating, and people have boyfriends or girlfriends. And
And now today in this culture, that's becoming more and more clouded, I think. It's a lot different. There's different stages of dating relationships.
We're just dating online. It's just social media.
Well, but like there's talking, there's dating, there's in a relationship, there's friends with benefits, there's there's just generally liking someone and having a degree of affection and emotional connection with them, but no commitment, and it just gets confusing, I think. So having a framework for your middle school or high school student to begin to think and process for themselves, what is dating? When am I in a place that I should do that? I think it will only benefit them. So the first thing that I would say for you to consider, for your kids to consider, is, do they have a sound relationship with the Lord? Are they growing in their understanding of the grace of God? So how do you think kids can evaluate, do I have a relationship with the Lord, and is it a solid relationship in which I can then look outwards and begin to consider other relationships with people?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is, have you accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior? So Romans 10 talks about, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So it's both the, I am needing Jesus to make me right, and I know I can't do that by myself, and I'm going to let him tell me what to do. Once you've said yes to that, then it's like, okay, that's the very first step in your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, and then I'd just say, a simple way to think about it is, what do I do when I screw up? What do I do when I get it wrong? Because we're not saying you have to be perfect, wholly sanctified before you can consider being in a relationship. But what do I do when I screw up?
Not what do I do when I screw up when I'm dating, but you're just saying in general, person, what do I do when what do you do with your sin? What do you do with your failures? And what does repentance look like?
Yeah. Do you have a pattern of preaching the gospel to yourself when you've messed up, reminding yourself of grace, turning from sin, and seeking to turn back to the Lord? And why do you think it's important that we start with having a sound relationship with the Lord as the first consideration for dating?
Well, I'll answer that question and the first one that you asked by saying, it's absolutely central for anything in life. If you start without Christ, then you're just operating on the plane of temporary and vanity and stuff that's passing, whereas once our eyes have been opened by the power of the gospel, it's like we can see eternally now. We can see things that are eternal, not just temporary. And if you miss that, then your focus, your values are attached to that perspective. So it's like you have to start there, because if you miss it by just a little bit, you miss it completely. So 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 to 17 says, "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes and the pride of life, like possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of God abides forever. So that's one of 13 things in the book of 1 John that I've got that are marks of Christians. And I would say when it comes to dating and relationships, you look at godly dating relationships and worldly dating relationships, like what is important in those relationships kind of shows where you're at.
Yeah.
And so students have to start with Christ because that helps you interpret what should be valued in the relationship.
Right.
But if they're not there and they're just looking at worldly, then they're going to their values in the relationship are going to be set on worldly things. And it's like you're doomed to fail if they do that.
Yeah. So. To start, your framework, has to be secure in that you are a child of God, that you are growing and changing with him. And only then will you be able to properly walk through life, especially with another person, and saying, hey, how can we pursue Christ more? What does this look like to pursue Christ more? If the aim of my life is to honor God and to love people, to become more like Jesus, to love God and love my neighbor, like I want someone else I'm in a relationship with to have that same goal and pursuit.
Right.
And I have to know that first and foremost, I have a sound relationship with the Lord before I move forward.
Because you're going to be terrible at dating if you look for your identity in that person.
Yeah.
And you're putting an unfair weight and burden on them to fulfill you if you're not first solid in that. So I think you're 100% right.
Yeah. And then second, what I'd say is to ask yourself or ask your kid, am I in community? Am I in community where people know me, know my struggles, know what I'm dealing with, and can speak into my relationship? So how important do you guys think it is to have people when you're dating? Think back to when you were dating or people that you've seen date. How important it is that's fine. How important is it to have people able to speak into that relationship?
Crucial. Yeah. I think it's really important, like, to have other people looking in. They can, especially people that have known you for a little bit, to be able to be like, all right, you were doing well, and now this person is like dragging you away from whether it's like just spiritually just dragging you down, or they're physically seeing you be removed from your friend group. It's like, whoa, hold on, like, why is this person like taking you away instead of like helping you, spurring you towards good things? Like, isolation is never a good thing, and so like the more isolated you become, that's never a good thing.
Yeah. Community is absolutely necessary, but I would say, Stephen, that it needs to be pre-existing community.
Yeah,
so,
right. Are you in community?
So if I'm, and what I mean by that, especially for students, so remembering back to when I was in high school, I didn't date like at all. Partially because I got nominated my senior year for the most secretly admired. Like, that was my graduation. Like, everybody gave awards. It's like, thanks, ladies. Thanks. That's like, high school's over now. I'm gone. Thank you. That's wonderful. Whatever. I'm not bitter. But it's like,
He's married,
so
has all
I
his
didn't,
kids.
I didn't date. I didn't really have girlfriends. But it wasn't until my freshman year I dated. But for high school, and then even me then with the maturity where I was at before knowing Christ, when emotions get involved, and it happens now still to me, I become literally unable to see clearly certain things. Like, they blind me to things. And so the first serious girlfriend I had, I'm being honest with you guys, I had people that I was in community that knew me well that tried to talk to me and give me counsel, and I couldn't hear it. I was blind. And it wasn't until I broke up with her that it was like, what happened? Whatever. And they were like, I told you so. It's like, did you really? I mean, thanks for sticking with me through it and being honest, because now I look back, it's like, man, you did. I should have listened to you sooner, but that only was able to happen when people knew me well enough to see that my character was changing, to see that it wasn't a good thing, and it was pulling me away from the direction that I should be going as far as pleasing God. And so community and having people know you, if you don't have that, your emotions are going to lead your life, and that's a train wreck. Like, it's going to happen, guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure. It's like kids, mean, if you're listening to this, your kids are a part of Grace Students. And most likely, it's like we want to be a community for them, and for you to be also a place for them, that they have a relationship with you, that you can speak into their relationship, or encourage them to talk to their leader, be like, with whatever they're going through, but also in terms of relationship, be like, hey, have you asked your leader, what does your leader think about him or her? What do your Christian friends think about him or her? And sometimes they're gonna have other people besides you speaking in, but that's really, really important and really good, because I think what I've noticed is like I don't trust myself in a lot of ways, and I think that's a good place to be, and that means that I need men that I know to be able to speak into my life and say, hey, this person is really good for you, or hey, here's where you're going wrong, here's where you need to go this way or go that way, and lead me when it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't understand these things. Like, it's important to have community that can speak into that. So if you don't have any community, you're not ready to date, because you're going to be going at it all by yourself, and you're going to get yourself into some trouble.
I would say that if you don't have any community, you're not ready for life. I mean, and dating's a huge part of life. Relationships are a huge part of life. Community is, I mean, that's one of the things that the gospel does in believers' life. It adopts us into community, and that's how and why Christians should look different in this world, is because they have community where they're loved, they're cared for, they're rebuked, they're corrected. There's accountability.
Yeah, totally.
And I was trying to look up a Proverbs. I can't remember where it's at. But if you look at the book of Proverbs, there's all kinds of advice in there that is only possible in community. Like it involves
like
people.
A multitude of counselors.
So the one I was thinking of though is "Profuse are the kisses of an enemy, but faithful are the wounds of a friend." And it's like, if you have real friends, they should love you enough they're willing to
say the hard things,
smack you upside the face and be like, hey, you dumb, stop dating this chick.
Or encourage you and say, hey, this is really good.
Or encourage you.
This is awesome. Like,
one or the other, but it's like the point is you have to have people in your life that know you well enough to say the hard thing and encourage you in the right thing.
And then lastly, so it's do you have a sound relationship with the Lord? Are you growing in community? You have people that can speak into your life, and you're open to letting people speak into your life. And then third, do you have an understanding of what you're dating towards and what you're dating for?
That's great.
Do you have a plan of some sort of an understanding of like, hey, what is the reason that I'm doing this? Or is it just like, I just really, really like this person, I don't understand why, and culture is showing me all these different things that you do, so I guess this is what I do. Because as a middle school and high school student, especially early in middle school, it's like you're learning through watching people around you what dating is about and how you've seen people date. And it can be very easy just to go with the flow of other people. Right. So this is like, hey, let's stop, let's think, let's evaluate. What are you dating towards and what are you dating for? What do you guys think about that question? What are you dating towards? What should you be dating towards? What should you be dating for? How do you see that play out in life?
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, I was taught for a long time, like, dating is a means to an end. It's not like it's the evaluation period. It's the discovery process to figure out, is this kind of the person I'm gonna marry? Like that's kind of the point, because if it's only about, I want to be affiliated with this person or around this person because they make me feel good, that is completely self-serving. But if you go towards this idea of, all right, how am I going to like evaluate if this relationship should lead towards marriage? Like, that's huge. And that actually kept me from dating in middle school and high school. And it's not for lack of liking people. It's like, I mean, I had huge crushes, but it's like that wasn't a thing. I didn't do that. And then when my wife and I started dating, it's like, I hadn't dated before, so I'm like, I don't really know how to do this. How about pre-engagement counseling? I went straight to the counsel part because I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to evaluate this outside of somebody helping me. So that's what we did. That's an extreme side of things, but I think what are you going towards? Well, it should be, what are you dating for? It's an evaluation period, and it should be towards marriage. If it's not, it's likely just a self-serving relationship.
Does this mean that like you have to like think you're going to marry them like right when you start dating?
Absolutely.
I don't think that we need to kiss dating goodbye. I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, too soon maybe.
Nope, not too soon.
Parents, dating is evil and wrong, and you shouldn't let your kids do it. Podcast over. Done. Just kidding. Dating can be a great thing, and it could be an absolutely life-altering, terrible thing. I mean, kids, sleeping together, having sex, or even just getting physical and kissing and touching, and then even less on the spectrum is they're just all consuming of your life. So posting on social media, they're your bae, like, oh, I'm best friend, like. Right. It becomes an idol, So all of those things are evil. Some of them have more potential repercussions for later in life. So it's worth thinking about for sure. And for students, they don't know how to think about it. The culture is going to tell them what to think. So parents, I would encourage you to really, really think through your strategy on.
For some students, I'd say.
For some students. So it has everything to do with maturity, where they're at in their faith, I would say, where they're, as far as community, how are they doing spiritually, emotionally. For example, if there's somebody that's close to our age that's single and they're dating somebody and then they get their heart broken and they're emotionally in not a good spot and they immediately start going to date somebody else, it's like, whoa, dude, that's
probably not a good
idea.
That's
That's an emotional, like, I know it sucks right now. Let's just, for kids, if it's just an emotional thing, that can be unhealthy.
Yeah.
I'm rambling. What are we talking about right now?
Say, like, does that mean like you have to know you're gonna marry?
Oh yeah,
them,
yeah.
right?
Back
like,
on the
What is dating towards marriage?
Sorry.
Like, do I have
Stop
to be
talking
like
so
obsessed,
much.
like thinking that, wow, this is the person for me?
No, but it has to be a part of the equation for sure. So number one thing that I ask students when I hear the girls talking about the boys that they like or boys talking about the girls they like, it's like, that's cool. I think I like them too. They're really cool. And it's like, no, you like them. Oh, I get it. Well, do you think you can marry them someday? No. It's like, well, then why do you, like, what's the point with this? You want to date them. You just want to talk to them. You want to, and then it quickly turns into a heart conversation of you don't need them to affirm you. It's like, you're awesome. Right. Like, forget them. It's like, why don't you go hang out with the other girls over there? You go hang out with the other guys over there. So it's a matter of the affection that they're looking for.
Yeah.
But then older students in high school, it's like, they're getting ready. They're thinking about family. They're getting ready to step out. And I think they are able to think about marriage. Their age, they're older. So I think it needs to be a part of the equation. And for middle school students, like, they're nowhere close to getting married.
Right.
So it's a different heart conversation. For high schoolers, like, yes, marriage is on the mind. But, hey, you don't want to get married till after high school? It's like, okay, cool. How do you think it's going to go with the girl you're dating right now then? Right. You're going to date her for 4 years? Like, So talking timeline at that point, I think marriage puts the conversation into context, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say I think it begins. It's like, okay, you know someone, you're getting to know them. It's like, do you see qualities in them that you're like, wow, those are qualities that I value in a potential future spouse.
Yes,
it's like they have qualities that I value in a potential future spouse, and you're getting to know them more, and you're dating them. It's like, okay, now you're dating, and it's like I'm dating towards marriage, and that I'm considering the end the whole time, and that I'm considering, it's like, how would that plan out if I was to become one with them? It's like I'm considering, as I know them more, okay, where do our values align? Where are our values not aligned? Are these things that I would be able to work through or not work through? Are these things that are like major issues that would be, is like, no, we could not be one in marriage because of this. And I think when we say dating towards marriage, it doesn't mean that you're for sure that you're going to marry someone or else you'd be married to them. It's this idea. It's like, no, I'm considering how would they be a potential spouse to me? Do they have values that I believe that the Lord wants for me in a relationship with them? And I'm going to continue to keep that in the forefront of my mind, even while living in the present moment, even while hanging out and doing just fun stuff within community. I think that's what it can look like to date towards marriage. Or is it just like a completely momentary thing to where your physical and emotional affections for them can get out of proportion from this really friendship type relationship right now, and before Christ at least, to a point where there is harm and greater harm down the road. Right. And there's always going to be an amount of risk and harm in any relationship where you're letting yourself be vulnerable and letting yourself be known.
It's part of community. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, just do it wisely. Like know the consequences and say, okay, is this worth that investment? So do you have a sound relationship with the Lord? Are you in community where people can speak into it? And are you considering actual future potential marriage with this person? Or is it just a momentary feel good thing? It's like, hey, maybe I need to wait a little bit and continue just in my community until I pursue that.
That's good.
So yeah, parents, are they ready to date? I don't know. It's up for them to work through and for you to shepherd them in.
That's right.
And lead in conversation and be excited for them when they have people they're interested in. They want to come talk to you. It's like, okay, have those conversations.
Right, be open.
Don't just shut it down immediately to where they're going to go do things behind your back and not want to share with you. And then just work through lovingly and knowing that your kid may not agree with you and there may be some disagreements and consequences and whatever, but ultimately we're in the long game here of discipling students and we want to keep the door open for future conversations with them.
Can I say something real fast on that? Like I said before, I didn't date in high school, and I've said this before on the podcast in regards to other things, but I'm grateful for my parents because what they told me I did not like in regards to relationships and dating and community and who I was allowed to hang out with and who I wasn't. But it wasn't until later in life once I did date. Now that I'm married, I look back and I'm grateful for the things my parents enforced in regards to relationships that then I didn't understand or agree with. And now I see, and I'm grateful. So parents playing the long game and remembering that you don't have to be best friends with your kids on every topic. Sometimes you need to lay the law down and hold to because you care for them, and it's going to be best for them in the long run, not the immediate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, dating is a good thing. It's a great thing. Marriage is a great thing. It's not the most important thing. Christ is.
Yeah.
Push your kids towards Christ. The rest follows. We love you. Don't forget, October 10th, Parent Equip Conference.
Right.
Dr. Scott O'Malley.
He's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor, but he seems like it. Mr. Scott O'Malley's coming from 12 Stones Ministries to lead a conference on how to better parent and shepherd your children. So register. It's in the show notes.